Hey, what is up? Welcome to another episode of Fire from Heaven Philosophy. This episode is being recorded live, so if you're listening on the podcast, thanks for listening. And just a quick introduction before I get onto the main topic, which is I did a series a while back on the podcast called The Worthiness of Work, and we're continuing that series. I just decided that literally right as I went to do this. So, yeah, for a quick introduction. My name's AJ. Andrew is my first name, but I go by AJ. This is the Fire from Heaven Philosophy. I am a heavy metal artist, and my music project is Fire from Heaven. I basically do heavy metal with a twist of kind of like fantasy or mythology. The style's kind of more of a metalcore sound. I just say heavy metal in general. And my project name is Fire from Heaven. I don't know if I said that. And I basically, because I combine elements of like storytelling and stuff like that, and symphonic elements, I call my genre mythical metal, just because it's kind of cool. It's fun and a way to differentiate myself a little bit from literally hundreds of other metal artists out there. So, but yeah, so there's a quick introduction, and this is basically a podcast that, it's called the Fire from Heaven Philosophy. So it's about my music, but it's also just about the ideas behind my music, and basically kind of like a documentary of my music, and the things going on behind the scenes of the music, and just a way to connect with fans, stuff like that, because I'm not a touring artist. I'm just one guy. So yeah, and also this is a journey, and I always say that, and you're along for the ride. So I don't edit my videos, I don't edit my podcasts or anything like that. I'm a dad as well, and I'm working at my day job right now, on my work break. Sometimes I do these lives at my break, but also some days I ride my bike to work, so then it's awkward because I don't have a space to record. So that's all I really have for the introduction. I think I forgot to bring my water bottle out here. But yeah, it's the introduction. So, main topic, the worthiness of work. It's kind of like a series I did a while back on my podcast, just talking about work, and what I did before was I took a lot of quotes and stuff like that from people throughout history about work and about hard work and stuff like that, and I basically kind of just talked about those and talked about my own ideas of what work is, and basically why I think work is important. And so yeah, so the other day I started experimenting with recording lives while riding my bike to work, and going back watching it, it's like you can barely hear me sometimes because of the wind, or because of cars, or freaking trains. So I'm trying to figure out a better way to do those. But I was going to try and recap on one of those, because I think it plays into working, and why work, it's worthy of doing. It's worth the effort to put in the work into anything you do. That doesn't mean it can't be enjoyable or anything. It just means some things just take work. So one of the big things I was going to talk about is basically, and I think I mentioned this in the series before, and why I did this series was because I just feel like our culture is drifting further and further away from work in whatever way we can. We're trying to avoid work, and I just think it needs to be talked about. I think work is worthy of doing, and I think a big thing people don't want to do, don't want to put in the work of, is thinking. So that's why I had that episode the other day talking about critical thinking, which you probably didn't hear me hardly at all on the bike if you watched it. Basically, I wanted to recap that because I think it'd be helpful, because today I just feel like people would rather be told what to think than put in the work of developing their own mindset, their own thinking style, whatever, It just seems like people prefer to just go with whatever's being told to them because they don't have to think. They don't have to put in the work of thinking. And it's frustrating because there's so many things that are going on in the world that just aren't right because people don't want to think about it. And come on, that's like the biggest thing we have as humans is logic, reasoning. No one does that today. No one asks any questions. And like what I talked about on that live that I recorded when I talked about critical thinking, was the reason why it's important to ask questions, even about your own personal beliefs, whatever, even your own traditions, beliefs, whatever you were raised in. Ask questions, question it thoroughly. Like I even mentioned my own Christian beliefs, like I question it thoroughly several points in my life, and the reason why it's important is because it'll do one of two things. It will either uproot errors or deepen understanding and deepen the beliefs. So when I questioned my beliefs as a Christian and everything, I found things that weren't right, that I believed, that weren't according to, what the Bible said, just giving an example as a Christian. A lot of things that were taught in tradition that weren't biblical, that were being taught as it. So, I uprooted a lot of errors in my beliefs, and I also deepened my understanding of it. So, what I like to do is, if like it's being said over and over, I question it. Conventional wisdom. Any of my fans know I wrote a song called The Folly of Conventional Wisdom. And that's basically what my album is going to be a lot of. It's going to be a lot of like questioning conventional things. It's going to be about, talking about just ideas that are flawed logic. And it's also just going to be about questioning my own beliefs and stuff and deepening understanding. It's just a lot of reflecting on different things, I guess, is basically what my album is about. So that kind of played into, what I talked about in that episode about critical thinking. So that's why I decided to talk about it. And basically, I think our culture is like so straying away from work, especially with the thinking thing. So that's why I want to make this episode. It's like, question everything. You want to learn how to reason? Question things. It's funny because there's one side of philosophy where it's just like all these pointless things, and people think they're philosophers because they ask stupid questions, and they reflect on stupid, meaningless things. Like, where are you going? How are you pursuing wisdom by saying, something dumb? Questioning it. Just, I don't understand it. But philosophy is the pursuit of wisdom. So anything that's not really pursuing wisdom, it's not philosophy. It's stupid. It's folly. But I don't know where exactly I was going with that. But back to like reasoning and thinking, it's like, ask questions. Ask a lot of questions, because not all, sometimes we don't want to ask the right questions. So then the more questions you ask, think you kind of figure out the more you figure out what you're trying to ask and what you're trying to figure out, I guess. So, I think trying to figure out where I want to go with this. I think our world just needs to, especially in my culture in the United States, question things. Question common beliefs you've had your entire life. Question things new, things old, and develop your own beliefs, Make those beliefs your own, rather than just kind of being told what to think, what to believe, what to do, I just think we need to put in the work of figuring those things out too. And I guess just my own personal journey. Let me just check what time it is. Okay. Yeah, I mentioned earlier that I questioned my Christian beliefs several points in my life whenever it didn't seem to make sense to me, but, I questioned those things as well, and I don't know. Just ask questions. I think that's what I'm trying to make the main point of this episode. Ask questions, people. Please, for the love of the Lord God Almighty, ask questions. Ask questions. Think. Put in the work of thinking. And also, just a note, this is things I'm trying to tell myself as well. Because, obviously I believe in, doing that, but there are times in my life where I don't do it, So, a lot of things that, I tell people on my podcast and stuff like that, it's also, a note to myself. Because I go back and listen to them as well. And I think I'm my most favorite listener. I'm just kidding. Yeah. I think that's just the point I want to get across is think. Question your own common beliefs. Question your own thinking to see if it's actually if it's logic or folly, you know what I mean? If it's wisdom or folly, I should say. Because I don't know. Sometimes I see just very one-sided beliefs and stuff, and I've just learned how wrong I can be all the time. So don't take what I'm telling you, Don't just take it and believe it. Question what I'm telling you, you know what I mean? Just question literally everything. It takes a lot of effort sometimes, but it's worth it because you just come to a deeper understanding of those things, or you uproot the things that are flawed, you know what I mean? It's just all the things going on in the world today. Well, I believe in this because of that, and you sound like a broken record. You're just saying what everyone else says who believe that. Has anyone asked questions about that? Has anyone questioned their own common beliefs about that? Even in Christianity and the church and everything, there's so many things never mentioned in the Bible, so many things. Or they weren't ever emphasized in the Bible as much as they are today. I know there's cultural context and context of that age and all those things, but still, you know what I mean? Just question things. And you have a brain for a reason. You have logic for a reason. You have reasoning for a reason. You have a conscience for a reason. It's interesting. I was listening the other day. This podcast. They were hang on. It's a Christian podcast. It's called 30 Minutes in the New Testament. It's a really great podcast for any of you, my Christian listeners, or people who just want to understand the Bible. They talk about the New Testament and, spend 30 minutes, they record an episode and they just talk about, a little bit more of what the passage is saying and stuff like that. But they were talking about, at one point, I think it was in the book of Romans where they were talking about it, but how basically everyone has some sort of law that they believe they've violated. So if like there's someone who's like, well, I don't believe in the Bible, I don't believe in God, I don't care about, the laws or whatever, you know what I mean? The laws in the Bible, to specify, which, I don't care about them either, because it's in my nature to follow them, I'm not going to get on a whole thing there, but they're important. But anyways, point being, everyone has a law that they violated to themselves. You know what I mean? Like, if you ask someone, have you ever done, something wrong before? Have you done something you've ever regretted? And, like, a liar would say no, basically. Everyone would say yes to that question and, answer back something like, well, I did this and I wish I wouldn't have done that and stuff like that. And it's like, boom, right there. There's a law. There's your conscience. Something you have, something you've been given to help you think, basically. Our conscience, something we've been given that we just, what's right and wrong, there are some things, people question, some people think is right, some people think is wrong, but everyone can agree, like, murder is wrong, or rape is wrong, and it's like, why? So, that's just like, I'm trying to show you, like, we all have a conscience, so use it. Basically is the point I was trying to make. We all have a conscience, use it. We all have reasoning, we all have thinking. So, ask questions. And I'm going to end this episode there. Stay metal.